Good morning, this is Pamela Lynn Coldhauser, anchor for the Abolition News Network, broadcasting live from the National Martyrs Mausoleum. Thanks to the new technology of magnetized light, time, and hologram imprints, we are able to interview the spirits of martyrs who died for the cause of abolishing slavery. The mausoleum superintendent, Mrs. Edith Smoth, will be assisting with the handling of our guests today. Today we're going to talk to a man who organized the largest slave uprising in the United States history. Although it was over before it began, it involved nearly 9,000 slaves from the Charleston, South Carolina area. Welcome, Denmark Vesey. Denmark, let's get right to your story. The way I understand it, you worked for a sea captain as his personal servant. How did that go?
Yes, I worked for the captain 19 years as his loyal personal servant.
That's a long time. How did you end up being able to buy your freedom?
Well, that's sort of a divine miracle. December 9th, 1799, I purchased a lottery ticket with the numbers 1884 on it. Now, in the Arabic language, those numbers in their alphabet mean hadith, which means God is with those who have patience. And I won $1,500, 600 of which I purchased my freedom. Now, I think the captain sold me because he needed the money, but we were friends.
That's a great story. Can you tell me a little bit about what Charleston, South Carolina was like at the turn of the century, at the early 1800s?
Yes. Charleston was a potential hotbed for insurrection and conspiracy. You see, the population was about 63,800 blacks to about 17,800 whites. And that's about 3.5 times more blacks. And the city, the slaves were very mobile, and that was the trouble. You see, we had couriers, lumberers, boatsmen, and pilots. And the black preachers spoke from independent pulpits from the white preachers. And the city was run like a police state, and this had been since the Stonewall Rebellion.
Wow, interesting. I understand that you were a well-to-do carpenter and that you lived near the mayor of Charleston and the governor of South Carolina. So what actually inspired you to want to help free slaves? Well,
at the trial, I was asked if I desired to migrate back to Africa. And I said that although a change of nation might be good for other black men, I wanted to stay and help my fellow creatures. You see, I was inspired by the Bible and Exodus, chapters 21, verses 16, which read, "A kidnapper, whether he sells his victim or still has him when he's caught, shall be put to death." And I also read to my followers Joshua chapter 6, verses 21. "They observe the ban by putting to the sword all living creatures in the city, men, women, and children, as well as oxen, sheep, and asses." And lastly, I read from Zechariah 14, verses 1 and 2. "Lo, a day shall come when when the spoil shall be divided in your midst, and I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem for battle. The city shall be taken, houses plundered, women ravaged. Half of the city shall be put into exile, but the rest of the people shall not be removed from the city."
Those are wonderful quotes. I see why they inspired you. Can you tell me a little bit about what your plan was? Explain to our viewers some of the things that you were hoping to carry out.
Well, that's simple. We set the date for July 14th, 1822. That was the same date as Bastille Day in Paris, France. And they were to follow what I have just read to you at the sound of the church bells. "The loyal servants of the governor shall kill the governor and the mayor as they slept at night. They shall break into the federal armory and local armories for weapons. And my cavalry and infantry were to roam the streets and kill anyone at night they saw, including children. They were to set fires throughout the city with explosives and incendiaries that I had obtained. They were to poison the water wells. And lastly, they were to seize the harbor and all the ships, where we would all sail off to Haiti, where we would be welcomed as free men.
I know where you went wrong. You think the people of Charleston are stupid. You think they're going to let their children roam around at night and have their drinking water poisoned while you sail off to Haiti and live happily ever after? You need to stop reading the fairy tales of the Bible and start reading Mother Goose.
Really?
So, Denmark, I'm sorry, could you just tell us what really did go wrong?
Well, on the eve of our plan, at June 16th date, the authorities found out because one of my recruiters talked to a slave recruit who repeated it to his master. I'm sure the slave received his magnificent manumission for that.
That's so unfortunate. Can you tell us how the trial went?
Well, 131 were arrested. But what was unfair to me was that none of my accusers were brought before me at the trial. And they could only find 6 of the hundreds of pikes that supposedly existed. And one of my captains was tortured into confessing. Now that should not be the American way.
I agree with you. You know what I think?
No. What do you think?
Well, you only planned a rebellion, so there's no crime in thinking thoughts. But that judge should have declared you insane, because no one but someone who's crazy could get away with that.
So, what was the verdict of the trial and who got convicted?
Guilty. 42 were deported and 35 were hanged. On the second round of hanging, the victims were strangling because the platform was too high. So the captain of the guard had to shoot them. Then the bodies were dissected and left as a warning.
That is so awful, Denmark. I can't imagine. I'm sure that had to have had an effect on Charleston and the entire state.
Yes. Well, it once again put South Carolina on guard, and it tightened their slave codes. Gatherings had to be supervised by white guardians. Curfews were tightened. And the state passed the Seaman Act, requiring all African seamen to be jailed for their entire duration and their stay. And mail was inspected, and the AME Church was torn down.
Denmark, I think you were very courageous. And I'm not sure if you know this or not, but last month, when the Civil War ended on April 14th, 1865, the United States flag was raised over Fort Sumter, and nearly 3,000 former slaves sang the Star-Spangled Banner. And your son Robert was invited to watch. And since then, he has been invited and asked to be the architect and the contractor to rebuild the African Methodist Church. This is Pamela Lynn Kolthauser with Abolition News Network saying we'll be back.